Okay, at the Wargaming table. This is going to be somewhat of an update, or maybe a state of the design with respect to, well, TIC, Troops in Contact, but I'm going to talk about a major change there. So TIC, or Troops in Contact, was a design I was enjoying tinkering with a while back. Made a bunch of videos on it. But recently, having an opportunity to get in a lot of focused, well, being able to get in a focused review of what I was trying to do and where I thought I might go with that design. I did realize that something had happened. Basically, the design was on one track, and the original, I'm not sure what to call it, but the original setting for the design was on another track, and they were diverging, which isn't necessarily very bad, but I decided, again, with time to reflect, with lots of time to reflect, I figured, okay, I guess I basically decided, hey, I'm not going to fight it. I'm gonna roll with it. So what does that mean? That means that TIC, Troops in Contact, TIC came out of, and again, I recorded more details on this before, but basically it came out of a desire to capture, starting with my own combat experience, capture a design that was just really true to my own experience. Not true to wargaming history, not true to wargaming fixtures, design fixtures, not true to any of that other stuff, but true to, and again, I talked about this, I said true to my own experience, true to the experiences of those, I've known one-on-one, or known personally, I guess that's the right word, as well as, some, I mean, really it's a distant third would be, contemporary accounts from the last really 10 to 15 years. So that was TIC. And basically I'm setting that design aside just because I generally speaking, I envision that design finding a new life really in an entirely different design space than where I was headed. So again, I do expect to down the road pick up TIC again, but it's going to be a totally different, I imagine it's going to be a totally different, design approach. Okay. So where was the design going? Because I'm going to pick up the design that I was, I'm going to pick up the design that was evolving for TIC, and I'm going to put it in a new setting, so to speak. And so what is that? I was thinking to myself, okay, what is the, with respect to the design, which I will be getting to that shortly, but what was the problem was when I was, taking the design and basically relating it back to real world, I kept coming back to two totally different kinds of, sources of knowledge, data, facts, impressions, perspectives. One is really a contemporary training perspective, and then the other one is contemporary combat perspective. And that's where I said TIC will pick up again with a contemporary combat perspective. somewhere down the road, basically when I figure out what kind of design angle I feel fits there. What happened was, I said these two tracks diverged. Actually, they were not the same to begin with. So from the beginning of Tick, I realized now I had two different tracks in mind, but didn't really realize that. So there's a training track that's totally different. So for lack of a better way of putting that, it's basically the same. My firsthand experience with combat operations training and the experiences of others I know personally, and again, third, written records of the same. Okay. So the design that I was working on before, called Tick, no longer called Tick. I'm going to call it STC. Well, the working name right now is STC. That's Simulated Training Center. And I've tried to choose a working title that captured as directly and as succinctly as possible what I had in mind. So again, this goes back to the recollections of training and how that could be translated to a tabletop paper hex encounter wargame. So STC, Simulated Training Center, and again, I tried to that's exactly what it's going to be. That's the aim. The aim is to, if you have the opportunity to go, experience a training exercise at NTC, National Training Center, great. JRTC, Joint Readiness Training Center, great. JMRC, great. But not having, or short of those, what would a tabletop simulated training experience look like? So, so that's STC Simulated Training Center. Okay, so now picking up again kind of the nuts and bolts of the design. It's still I want to make everything. So these are call them design parameters, and a lot of this is review. I'm not sure there's anything that the big change is just STC and breaking with Tick and going off in basically another direction, but a direction that the design was already headed, which is really a deep, and deep is the right word, deep training experience, ersatz experience, of course. Is ersatz? I think it's ersatz experience. I think that's a fair way to put it. Okay. So first of all, the design, everything comes down to shoot, move, communicate. If it can't be put in one of those three bins, and it doesn't logically fit in one of those three bins, it's out. Which, yes, and to my mind, that means leadership. No, out. Doesn't. Not a major factor here. So that, I'll reiterate that. So again, shoot, move, communicate. And so basically I'll explore how deep to go into each of those, and especially how they relate, how they interact. But it's where another game design says, maybe, this game is all about small unit leadership, or this game is all about something else, whatever, I don't know. It depends on the particular game we're talking about. For me, this STC would be shoot, move, communicate. Okay, next, and I was thinking about this recently. I think that so far I can do everything in probabilities and percentage probability. I should say percentage probabilities, because obviously there are many different types of probabilities, but percentage probabilities. I think everything can be done in terms of percentage probabilities. And on top of that, I think everything can be formula based. I should say everything can be explicitly formula based. I suppose, you can say many designs have implicit formulas, but I'm talking about explicit formula, or an approach that leans heavily on explicit formulas. Let's see, I'm going to keep, and again, in everything that I review as I go through, reflect on what I've laid out and what I've walked through, experimented with. That's probably the best way to put it. I still see everything as multiplicative. I still don't see anything that's additive. Well, that's not true. I guess when you move your unit across the hex grid, and if you're talking about movement points, action points, or some other version of, I guess, quantifying capability, okay, I guess maybe additive in that regard. But anyways, I might even revisit that. But anyways, I think the vast majority of things that I find that I lay out, I find multiplicative, not additive. So again, the idea is percentage-based probabilities, shoot, move, communicate, explicit formulas, and explicit formulas based on multiplication of factors. Okay. No doubt I'm going to keep different kinds of fire, maximum flexibility for firing, maximum flexibility for targeting, maximum options or opportunities for targeting. I see no reason to not continue to pick up what I called, and this is not 100% accurate, but what I called temporarily or stand-in name, continuous action, turn structure. I think I'm going to keep that and continue working on that. I still believe what I said quite a while ago on video. I have not found a single turn structure, turn sequence approach that is really that really nails anything. They all have flaws, and it's more just understanding the flaws and deciding how to compensate for those flaws. Okay. Definitely going to keep what do you call it? Keep the resolution down to the individual soldier, but focused on the teams. The teams have to be individually characterized. I mean, coming out of playing Iron Cross, I mean, I'm even more convinced than I was before that units have to have individual characters, and it has to be found. I mean, a way has to be found to do that in a reasonable. In a reasonable way. What else? When I talk about everything being... So let me just give one example of what I mean by everything comes down to percentage probabilities, essentially. Of course, all of these hard statements are exaggerated to one degree or another, but that's just design principles made more both more explicit and more fixed and more categorical than is entirely called for. But it's just I'm just doing that as a memory aid. So when we talk about pinning and suppression, basically when we're talking about all combat effects short of outright killing or completely incapacitating a target, I think that I'm going to go with, and I think I'm going to be able to fix an approach whereby we're talking about percentage reduction in capability. I think about it and I think, okay, is some flavor loss there? Because it's not in terms of pinning or suppression or any other types of, descriptive categories. Instead, it's a unit is, and actually I think I'm going to go with percent capable. So if a unit takes 20% loss, it's going to be marked 80% capable. I'm thinking of that. I haven't worked that out on the tabletop, but that's what I'm thinking. And so is some descriptive flavor lost? Possibly, but I think that the game is going to have the players involved with so much. And okay, I should explain this. See, I think the player is going to be involved in so many things, and frankly, so much decision making that substitutes for these kinds of. I'm not even going to reach for a word here, but things like pinning and suppression. So what I'm calling descriptive game mechanisms. Okay. What do I mean? I mean, simply we have a fire team, and let's say that fire team's completely or 100% capable, hasn't taken any losses. The player again means I'm picking all this up from the earlier tick design. So the player is taking that team. The player is deciding the rate of fire. In most cases, in only a few cases is that forced upon the player. But in general, all right, I guess this is all in general. In general, the player is choosing the rate of fire. The player is choosing the kind of fire, whether it's area fire or point fire. The player is choosing the dispersion of fire. In no way, shape, or form will the player be, locked into attacking a single hex, unless, of course, you're attacking one point target. But so basically, you're choosing an area, i.e., a multiple of hexes, to affect. What else? I think that's, and that's just a fire. So with movement, you are choosing the rate of movement, and it's not just, walking, running, or crawling, walking, running. You're choosing from multiple different levels of basically activity. It's based on action points, not fixed descriptive categories like running, crawling, walking. And you're choosing posture. Probably just kind of an up and down posture. I looked at going to a third posture. There could even be a fourth posture, but I'm not sure anything is added there. I'm not sure enough is added to go to that detail. I think that's enough for a design update. So I am switching the focus. The focus will be, again, STC, Simulated Training Center, and it will be it'll be focused on different types of weapon systems, different types of training scenarios. But I think that focus is on the player's ability to plan in detail and then execute. So the idea is, you're in charge of the plan, make the plan, execute the plan, and see how well you do. See the outcome. All right.